This is the occasion. I would just say that I'm sure you have many questions, which I would have the great pleasure in answering if I can. But you must be fully aware that you are witnessing a very important geopolitical change in this region, which has taken place recently. It has many implications which we ought to examine. I'm sure the masters of the pen that you are, you will be honest to yourself and to the events, because otherwise posterity will never forgive you. I don't say they will forgive others, but certainly not journalists, because you have a very important role to play. I would therefore wait for my additional comments once I know what questions you have. Please shoot. Yes, sir.
Mr. President, the Islamic meeting, which you will hold very shortly, will you try to prepare an economic and military defense pact of Muslim countries?
We have, please sit down. We have no definite plan or maneuver for the Islamic conference. This conference has been convened to discuss the situation that has arisen in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a Muslim state. Afghanistan is a member of non-aligned movement. But the Islamic countries thought it fit to consider the situation and to see how best they can act in a unison. The foreign ministers are arriving here on 26th of this month. We will wait and see what develops out of this conference, but we hope that there will be a unanimous, joint consideration of the events and a unified action to meet the situation. Yes, sir.
John Dickey of the Daily Mail from London.
Welcome to Pakistan.
Thank you. Can you tell me if, in the event of Soviet troops crossing your border in so-called hot pursuit, that you have instructed your troops to open fire?
Generally speaking, this is a military rule that when a foreigner enters your territory with aggressive intentions, you do not go and kiss him on the cheek. Have I made myself clearer? Yes, sir.
General, Bill Borders from the New York Times. There's a report out of Washington that the United States is considering increasing its aid to Pakistan, military and economic, in the next 2 years by $400 million. Would you consider that adequate?
Frankly speaking, we have not yet heard exactly what the United States is planning. We have had preliminary discussions with them, there is no doubt about it. That was as a result of some of the questions that we wanted to be answered, some of the hard realities that we ought to have known, and exchange of ideas. More than that, rest is all speculation.
Are you pleased with the preliminary discussion so far with the United States?
Yes, the report that I've had so far of the exchange of ideas is positive in that sense, yes. If that is any indication of encouragement. What the actions follow, what comes thereafter, or in case the exchange of ideas continue, it all depends as to how we progress from here onwards.
So, John Simpson, BBC Television News from London. Can you tell me, what are you expecting from Lord Carrington's visit here?
What I've heard that Lord going to India, not that India is directly affected by this, but India should be interested. And I think the United Kingdom has, in my opinion, great expertise. They are witnesses of a phenomenon. Understand that, and if Britain is able to comprehend the way we comprehend, or the way rest of the world, we hope he can play an equally important role, what he did in Rhodesia, in this part of the world, not so much as a peacemaker that I'm thinking of, but as an influential foreign minister in this part of the world, seeing as to what should be done in this area.
David Van Prague, Business Week. Sir, do you...
But if Pakistan is facing a superpower on its doorsteps, and if the recent events in Afghanistan, because of Soviet intervention, have changed the environment, then Pakistan deserves attention.
President Stuart Auerbach at the Washington Post. Pakistan is getting attention, it seems to me. Following Lord Carrington's visit, you're going to have a visit from the Chinese foreign minister. Can you give us some idea as to what that will be about, and will there be any connection between his visit and Harold Brown's recent trip to Peking to discuss the Afghanistan situation?
No, it's not directly connected, because Mr. Huang Hua's visit was arranged much before we knew about Mr. Brown's visit to China. This was a return visit of Chinese foreign minister to Pakistan. In the middle of it, we have been caught by the events. But China has stood by Pakistan in all critical events. And currently, we are going through a very critical period. And exchange of views at that level is nothing extraordinary as regards relationship between Pakistan and China is concerned. Yes, sir.
In the past, Pakistan has complained that military supplies from the US have been cut off in 65 and 71. What type of reassurances do you want this time that deliveries of supplies or spare parts won't be cut off again?
If you were in my position, Mr. Woodhouse, House Skirt, what would you do? If you were in my position, what would you expect?
Could you answer that question?
I would like you to answer it. Yes.
Mr. President, Franco Boccarelli, Italian Radio and Television. Speaking practically, meanwhile the Americans are wasting time, at least they seem reluctant on giving you weapons. Would you be just straight with Mr. Wang Hua when he comes here and ask him the weapons which Americans haven't supplied yet to you? Thank you.
I haven't comprehended your question. If you could kindly repeat.
I said, as long as the Americans seem reluctant to give you weapons which you requested, would you in the meantime make ask the same thing to Mr. Wang Hua when you come back? While the Americans are wasting time, can you catch some other time with the Chinese friends? Thank you.
No, I think let me first correct your statement. We have not asked the United States for any weapons as yet. Number two, we do not have to ask the Chinese friends for military assistance because they have already been giving us military assistance.
You expect further assistance?
It all depends as to how what exchange of ideas we have, what is the comprehension of our Chinese friends, and what are the needs of Pakistan. And I can assure you this thing, that with the relationship that we have with China, China has been of great assistance to us politically, economically, militarily.
Are there, in the American offers of help, have there been any strings attached regarding Pakistani internal politics or Pakistani nuclear plan?
No, this is the question that we have asked, and so far the answer we are still waiting. But this is one of the questions that we have asked, that in case United States of America feels to support Pakistan, we hope that help and assistance will be without strings. And the impression that I have from what messages have been exchanged between me and the President of the United States of America, and what my foreign advisor has told me on his arrival yesterday, we feel that United States of America has probably hasn't got any strings in mind. But one thing must be quite clear, that nobody acts against his interests. Every one of us, small or big, high or low, when we act in international affairs, we always have our national interests. I hope Pakistan's national interests do not get violated by, are not in conflict with the United States interests in the region. Right.
President Jim Upshaw of NBC, following that up, if Mr. Carter were to try to impose upon you demands or perhaps changes in your internal political situation or the human rights issue, what would your reaction to those be?
I don't think the United States has got that in mind. I haven't got any indication as yet. But I see no reason why somebody else should be interested in our internal affairs.
Mr. President, Bruce Dunning, CBS. In Peshawar the other day, you mentioned that there has been no significant change in the military status here. Do you foresee putting troops on a higher state of alert, or do you foresee moving more troops into the border regions now that Soviet troops appear to be moving closer to your borders in Afghanistan?
We have our defensive plans, and defensive plans of all countries, according to their own capabilities, have various contingencies, and we are acting in accordance with that. If that makes the answer clear. Yes, sir.
Excellency, I was wondering if you could tell us what military hardware Pakistan needs, from whatever source it may come from, to adequately defend itself in the present situation. And if I could also ask a second question, and that is, will you be seeking an early meeting with Mrs. Gandhi now that she's been re-elected Prime Minister of India?
I will answer your question, the second question first. We are already in touch with Mrs. Gandhi. I personally spoke to her, offering my felicitations on her brilliant success in India. We want to live, and such things are left better to military discussions. As far as journalists, I'm sure they will take a very positive view of the situation.
Mr. President, could you, Gordon Martin of the BBC, could you give us your analysis of why the Russians acted as they did?
Yes, I'll give you very briefly. What has happened in Afghanistan is a change of a total change in the pattern in this region. The Soviet Union says that they have moved into Afghanistan with their military forces. They would like to call them military contingent at the request of the Afghan regime. Mrs. Thatcher, in her letter to President Brezhnev, has very brilliantly questioned that statement. The same was asked by Imam Khomeini also, as to which government. Secondly, it is a qualitative change in this part of the world. The Soviet Union, which so far has never entered any other non-European country, has for the first time entered militarily on the pretext of helping their friends in Afghanistan, which is an Asian country. For the first time, the Soviet Union has overtaken a country, not overtaken, has taken over a country which calls itself, which is in effect a Muslim country. Now, while answering a question the other day, I posed a few questions myself, and that will answer part of the analysis. If you analyze the timings of the Soviet action, you find that they were the perfect timings. Iran was involved in its own internal revolution. I say Iran because Iran is is a free country. It has been under the influence of the United States for a considerable length of time. It has been a Western ally. It is the main producer of oil, which is a great attraction these days. United States was embroiled in its own internal affairs, political, presidential campaign, and above all, the 50 hostages in Iran. The United States Armada ready for any possible action militarily or economically against Iran, devoid of attention elsewhere. Rest of the world involved in their own internal affairs. India engaged in the forthcoming elections. I'm talking about 27th of, starting from 25th of December to 28th morning of December 1979. Pakistan engaged in its own affair in order to stabilize the country, our own economic problems and all the rest of it. Although our assessment, right from the word of 28th of April 77, when the first changeover took place in Afghanistan, our assessment has always been that Afghanistan will not allow to be slipped away from the hands of the Soviet Union. And even if it comes to the using of the military forces, the Soviet Union will do so. The timings, I must admit, even we could not foresee. It came as a sudden surprise to all of us. Now, the question that I said would answer some of the answer to which will form a part of the analysis. What are the aims and objectives of the Soviet Union? Are they as innocent, as simple, as to have come to the assistance of a friend, have come on the request of the Afghanistan government, who under the Treaty of December 1970, Treaty of Friendship, December 1978, supposedly have requested the Soviet Union for help? Are Soviet designs purely for the acquisition of another geographical terrain which is devoid of all minerals? There is no oil. There are 15 million poor people. Are the Russian designs, this Russian action, dependent on securing the periphery of the Muslim Soviets that are adjacent to Afghanistan? Or are the Soviets, or have the Soviets greater designs in this region? Now this is a question which ought to be answered. These are the questions which ought to be answered by not only the students of geopolitical environment, not only the Russia watchers, not only the Pakistan watchers, but all those who are interested in the stability of the world at this present juncture.